So welcome to today's Monday Live. It isn't just going to be me. I've got Nick just running in the bay now. Here's you, Mike. Busy day, busy day in the bays. So a little bit of a roundup from the weekend. I can't actually who won the ladies event, but Annabelle Fuller, who I've known a number of years, grew up playing at Roehampton where I grew up playing, had a great finish in the top three. So great to see her her career kicking on and making sort of a first top finish on the Ladies European Tour. Charlie finished 8th, so good solid start. Not the weather they were expecting in Saudi. They all had their rain gear on.
Yeah.
And just an unbelievable finish from Ludwig out at Torrey Pines for the Genesis. Fourth European win out of 5 weeks on PGA Tour.
What's even more impressive is he could have won at that course twice in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah. Well, he was unwell a few weeks back, wasn't
exactly.
he?
That would have been quite unusual to win on the same course twice a year.
Who won there? Was it Stracker who won?
No, that was
who won?
I can't remember who sailed in for the win on that one.
Yeah,
leave that one with me. I'll remember in a second.
But great for the European Ryder Cup year. So many Europeans putting their hands up. I think it's going to be faster than you've got. Obviously, Rory winning, Obo winning, Sepp Stracker, all 3 Ryder Cup players. And who was the 4th one? Was it Rosie?
Tommy's playing pretty well. Tommy
Fleetwood up there. It's a big. Proper, US Open course, major championship course, big players up there. You've got Finau, Oberg, Fleetwood, and just the number of top players. Then the start Maverick McNeely had, was he something like 9 under through 13?
Yeah,
I think.
He'll probably be a little bit gutted, but obviously
just an easy game, isn't it?
Yeah, we're delighted for Ludwig.
Yeah. So super busy in the bays this week. February's always silly season. Anything that you're seeing from a product point of view that you've noticed as we're starting to get more and more people in the bay?
I know it might sound a bit cliche, but I mean, again, such a top presentation of product from everybody again this year. I mean, nobody's put a bad foot forwards this year. Just driver-wise, QI35 for me a bit of a step forwards over QI10, certainly. Titleist still showing strong in terms of the GT series, and we've also had the new GT1s in the hybrids and the fairwaywoods. They've been fantastic so far. They've been good, solid performers.
So what I've seen, the DS Adapt, the kind of the standard, the X model, that's launched higher than I expected to. I've seen some good on spin, but a much higher launch. On some occasions, now obviously we're seeing more and more people through, but that's been noticeably higher launch. And actually the Strixon, not the LS, but for ball speed, I've seen that really good. Some people don't like the sound though. It's quite
an acquired taste.
But actually, been quite impressive.
The Ping's been very solid across the board. Again, as we kind of expect from Ping as a brand, but again, it's always very impressive with how stable as a head it is. The Callaway stuff, the Elite stuff.
Left-right, I know. I did a test on it, and we put a video on YouTube about it. But the left-right dispersion on that thing's crazy. Really, really impressive. Actually,
been a few people commented on the sort of the playability and the visuals of the iron as well for what is meant to be a game improvement iron.
Yeah, and I think I don't know if the Elite, the driver's not had a great kind of initial, should we say, reaction from a looks point of view. On the sole, but actually I think performance-wise, as I think I said on one of the lives recently, I think if it performs that well, and if you're getting that much consistency, I think we can very quickly look past the looks.
It's performed in the bay for me a few times.
And I don't think I've had anywhere near as many comments on Wilson as I have, or any other brands I have on Wilson on some of the comments on the YouTube videos, when I haven't included it in a driver fit because I didn't have the driver there to test. But
we've now got it.
Will be coming. So let's get cracking on questions because last week we got a load in, so
all right,
rattle through them. So again, as ever, thanks so much to all those who contribute. It makes such a big difference, and it's so nice to see so many of you in the fitting bays as well. It's always. I really enjoy it when people say, "Oh, I've watched the videos. We saw a couple of people in the States who came up to us at the trade show, and it's really flattering, and it means a lot actually to us. We put the content out, trying to give you a bit of entertainment, a bit of info, but the fact that actually people are watching is great. And these aren't just my mum emailing questions. So Josh Gunton to start off, been working on speed training over the winter. I've noticed a 20-mile-an-hour difference between lead and trail arm speed when doing single arm swings. What can I do to improve my lead arm swing speed? Well, for me, the lead arm's going to be the weaker one because it's a pull, it's an outward pull rather than inward pull. And like for me, I'm very, very right-handed. So if I were to do
right-handed.
Assume your back arm, your trail arm is your dominant arm. Yeah. And I know for me, a one-armed left-armed swing versus a one-armed right-arm swing, I dread to think what difference.
Only one winner.
Yeah.
For me, anyway.
Yeah. As to improve it, other than working hard, I would assume on kind of lateral moves to strengthen up that outside arm. But if you're particularly dominant one hand to other, it's probably not going to change much.
Yeah, I think you've just got to isolate it. So again, you're obviously doing the right thing. You've obviously acknowledged that there's a weakness there because you're doing individual arm swings, and so that would be the thing that you'd want to push on doing. And then anything in the gym, isolation exercises, individual dumbbell exercises where you're not pushing a bar, you're pushing individual dumbbells, I guess, and the same thing for your swings. Just isolate the left arm, keep on going on it. It will pick up, it will improve, but it's like I just do it. I'm so right-handed with everything I do. I'm surprised I can do anything with my left hand, to be honest with you. So I'm not surprised to hear that, to be honest.
So whenever I try and swing and hit a shot left-handed, I basically kind of rick a muscle down the side, which shows me how untuned in that side is.
So obviously Stuart's not with us tonight, but his left-handed swing is very impressive.
Yeah.
He's I wouldn't say as good, but he's very good left-handed and right-handed, isn't he? So whereas I am not very good left-handed. So.
I mean, any short game would be a disaster left-handed. Reed Harfield, hi guys, really enjoy Monday Night Live each week. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the great info. Well, could Stuart possibly cover club face position at P2? We will give him that question next week. So with that one, I'm assuming he's not still going on holiday next week, but fire that one in, and we'll get Stuart to answer that first thing for you. So, but thanks for reaching out. Kev T, great content on both channels last week. Thank you. Can Simon explain / demonstrate the difference between a normal shaft and a senior shaft? Thanks. So demonstrating isn't going to really do too much. So technically a senior shaft, by definition of what the shaft companies would call it, an A flex or a senior flex, is just a softer flex. In reality, ultimately, if you are a senior player and, shall we say, you're gaining life experience and maybe getting a little bit weaker, then it's just really playing a shaft weight that's appropriate to where you are now rather than where you were 20 years ago. And that allows you to move freely. So we would be generally looking at you're likely to go a little bit lighter versus where you were, let's say 10, 15 years back. And it's not so much a speed thing, it's that then becomes a physical strength thing. So in my mind, there is no such thing as something I would call a senior shaft. Got guys in their 40s playing a 38-gram shaft and guys in their 60s playing a 72-gram shaft. It's just, there's a natural...
relevant to the speed you bring to the table.
Should we say there's a natural degradation over time in the same way you strengthen when you're younger, and it's just making sure you're playing appropriate equipment to that.
I mean, to throw a spanner in the works on that would be like the long drive guys, right? Who are playing the softest shafts they can possibly play, and they're just trying to time that up, which obviously takes skill as well, but they're obviously trying to play something that is as soft throughout the whole shaft profile as it possibly can, because it might be able to give them that 1 or 2 mile an hour down by the ball at the extreme sort of speeds that those guys swing it. So that if you're using flex with those guys, it's completely irrelevant, right?
So Pro One David, good handle. Good evening, guys. Always look forward to Monday nights. When having a practice session at the driving range, would you recommend using a small tee with irons, as the mats are not very forgiving?
I don't know where I'd recommend it per se. I mean, it's an interesting one. If you're playing off very hard mats, you don't fancy going down after it, but you wouldn't want to be practicing a deliberate sort of shallow angle of attack, I guess, over and over and over again repetitively because of that. But I don't think it's not gonna harm you from a strike perspective doing that. I don't think.
Say, as you say, it's a difficult one because a lot of the mats have that much rubber and a tiny bit of felt on the top. So the difficulty is you can't get into impact the same way as you would on turf without a lot of vibration and without potentially risking wrist and elbow. If you practice a lot, you will get some. Essentially, the club head stops at impact, and that's going to pull on your wrist and your elbows. And I did a wrist and an elbow injury practicing heavily one winter when I was quite a lot younger. And and it's just the shock from that hard material where the club head literally drags into it. It's a bit like hitting not quite like hitting a tree root, but it's not far off. So I can understand where you're coming from with it, but relative to actually playing on the course, I don't think that benefits you, but it will stop you hurting yourself. So
potentially, I mean, you're still probably going to go down after it if you've got a tee in the ground. I don't know, it's a tough one, that one. Yeah.
Louis Gocher, for people who fit golfers into clubs of all abilities daily, what trends are you seeing? Is there a brand at the moment who's typically leading the way?
Well, I think from a forgiveness perspective that the pings are always fantastic, especially in the woods, and certainly in the fairway woods and the hybrids for picking the ball up off the deck for the higher handicap amateur golfer.
Mind you, I've seen the fairways and the hybrids are a lot lower spin this year.
Yeah, I'd agree, absolutely.
They launch well, but they're low spin.
Yeah, I think that's just the way all the brands are going there, isn't it? It's true. I mean, I certainly don't feel like I fit as many free woods anymore. I'm definitely going up in loft. I think there's been the birth of sort of the free HL or the forward, the 16.5 degree head.
Why don't they want to call it a forward? It's a forward.
It's a forward,
It's not high launch.
I always call it forward in the bay, but I fit a lot more forwards nowadays, and then I feel like we jump into sort of 7 woods. So I think the pings are always great from that perspective. Going into sort of the game improvement iron category, I feel like something like a ZX5 nowadays, and the Strixon iron is fantastic because it looks great. It gives you some progression to improve with it, but great at knocking it into the air as well. So.
Yeah, I guess any trends. I think what I'm seeing with some of the driver heads is trends where the toe side performance is being a little bit less volatile. I think if you're a toe misser, whereas I'm a heel strike with driver, you're more a toe striker.
I'm toe striker,
which is why we actually prefer the feel of different heads as a result. But if you're a toe misser, then the safety net the heads is giving is much, much better. I think some of that's down to shaft quality, but of getting less distortion impact. But if you're a toe striker, that kind of knuckly, low spin hook, there's a lot less of that this year. So that's something I would say is a definite trend across all the brands this year.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I hope that answers the question.
Stability.
Yorkshire Blade, good evening. Hi guys, keep up the good work. Lewis, well, I'll ask Lewis for it. Lewis, can you give me a drill to stop my Tommy Fleetwood and flow to a full follow through? Find it difficult to finish off. Sorry, Nick, like twins. Well, they are both very attractive. So it's really, so I've got the short follow through. Now, ultimately, if you've got the short follow through and it's working, I mean, Tommy does it for a particular reason. He's got a really strong body rotation. So if he went with his arms as well, it could get a little bit. Let me see. Stop the foot and flow to a full follow through. What would you want to see for that?
I mean, I always feel like that sounds like it's a loss of energy. So actually, it sounds like the energy is being lost a little bit too early, and then effectively you're sort of almost gliding into impact, right? And then there's not enough energy to carry you into a full follow through. Is kind of that would be my understanding of it. So I guess from a club perspective, I'd be looking at shaft weight and balance potentially. Is it something where it's causing the golfer to cast it and lose a bit of energy before he gets into strike? Is he, by dropping a bit of weight, can he lead with the hand a little bit more, get a bit more compression onto it? And just wait full stop? Is he having to drag it through into a full follow through? So from a club perspective, I'd be looking at weight first.
And the only thing I would think from a swing side thing is, one, are you completing your body turn through? But grip pressure. If your grip's tight, then the moment you grip too tight, then if I grip tight with my hands, it goes all the way across here. So if I'm tight in my hands, then that's all I've got. It's going to finish short, whereas if I'm relaxed, I can let everything go. So it comes from a couple of things. I think from grip pressure is one thing, and making sure your body's completing its rotation from a technique side of things. But as Nick said, the equipment could be playing a part as well.
Potentially, yeah.
So Nana, would you expect significant performance difference between the 6.5 and the TX Flexes in the Hazardous Black 5th Gen? All the pros use TX. Is it a different material, makeup, and profile? Well, the answer to that is, it is a little bit. With the TX, there are some brands that in the TX, so it's like the Denali. The TX is a different construction, and that's designed for the tour guys. And it's a different price point from a retail point of view for that reason as well. So the quality of the material will go up. It's not something that Project X have actually kind of released any info onto us as yet with the Gen 5, because the Gen 5's launched into kind of retail stock shafts. It doesn't actually hit aftermarket quite as early. They prioritise it and give it to likes of Titleist or TaylorMade, but they tend to give it out to a lot of them. But yeah, the TX will be a higher grade material and a stiffer structure. And that's why the tour players are going into it.
They used to do the handcrafted series, obviously, which were just, again, it was they would come out and say it was just a better quality and a better process that they were being built on.
Yeah, tighter tolerance
as well, tighter tolerances. So that is a different shaft from all accounts. They're actually telling you it's a different shaft with the title. So.
And the handcrafted always used to be made in San Diego, in their factory there, which is small volume, hence small batch was the other thing they came out with San Diego. And then their other factories would make all the other flexes, but it will be a different structure for that. The left rough, which is where I find myself most Saturday afternoons. What would be neutrally balanced iron shafts in the 110 to 120 gram range? What's in the bag for Nick would be interesting when he plays a bit. What in his bag would he change for 2025? So we've got a few questions there.
Yeah.
But I guess let's do that. What are you planning on changing anything for 2025?
Yes.
Ooh.
So I'm celebrating a big birthday this year, so I do want to change
25?
my irons. Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
I do want to change my irons over. I wish. 20. I do want to change my irons over, and I've definitely got a little bit of a gap in that sort of 18-degree area for me. I want something that I can flight a little bit more. I've got a driving iron, which is a bit flat for me. I've got a 5-wood, which goes forever, which is the Sim Max, which I just need to dial back a little bit. So 7-wood might be cool.
Well, they'll pop
might be calling me. So
7-wood. Gentleman's Persuader.
Sign
was that the
of the times.
So, interesting. I'm actually changing my forerun to something that flights a bit more as well.
Yeah.
I think with the ball construction, we're seeing flight come down a bit, so I'm going to head to flight it up a bit.
Just with the ball, it's just solo spin nowadays that I just want something that just pops it a little bit more for me. So I've played a very steady bag for about 5, 6, 7 years now.
You don't change very much.
No, I'm probably on the other end of the spectrum to some of the other guys that we've got working here. Mr. Chulman. Who does like to flip and some bits and bobs into his bag. Hopefully his wife doesn't watch the live.
Mute it, Nick. Mute it.
But I'm on the flip side to that. I'm usually quite a bit of stability in my bag, and it has to really warrant a place for me to swap something in and out. But 110.
110 to 120 gram, neutrally balanced.
Dollar taper.
I was going to say the KBS are generally, other than the C taper, the KBS are generally pretty good for that.
Yeah.
You've got the dollar taper in a 110, 115, 120. You've got the KBS Tour, Tour V in the kind of the 100, 110, 120 range. Yeah. So any of those in particular, the Oban, the CT115s, that's what I play. And those in the stiffer end of the flexes are up around the 110 to 112.
Yeah. They're the 110s that I can think of. But that dollar taper 110.
And actually, because you don't stipulate graphite or steel, a steel fibre 110. Yeah. That would work as well, for sure.
That would be bawdy.
If you want low spin, or stiffer tips.
If you want something stiff, then that'd be the one.
Mr. Titleist, evening guys. Can we have a quick look at the GT hybrids, please?
Absolutely.
You read the next question, I'll grab
They've been very popular so far. GT2, GT3, GT1 in the studio so far. Changeable in terms of the weights that they can do on them as well. So very popular since I've been throwing them into the bay and the fittings. Next one, let me have a little look. Miss Ali Nerd, thanks for the driver fitting this morning, Nick. Oh, absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming in to see me. Very knowledgeable and great of explaining it all. Very little to a very little brain, not at all.
Apologies. Sorry, I missed you.
Apologies for utilising the wall padding in the bay, not at all. So thanks for coming in. I thought we found some great results in the end. Bit of a change of length, weight, distribution of weight, and you've gone ahead and purchased that one. So we'll have it with you very, very soon.
Right.
Mike T, why do long driver guys use light and flexible shafts? Why don't we see more of this on tour?
So for tour, they're trying to keep it in a fairway, and they're trying to play different shot types. I think what we're seeing for the long drive guys is where they're maximising their swing length. Anything that can help them generate more speed with how long they're moving, the lighter shaft will just come with them. So for that type of technique, they've gone lighter because from kind of around here, they can get the club back with them so they can turn faster. But they're just looking for, as you said earlier, that one, they want one sort of safe one in the zone. But they've got I can't remember what the width is. I want to say
50 yards.
50 yards.
50 yard grid.
They've got the equivalent of, not far off that. Okay, it's not quite the old course, version 18.
It's not far off.
It's a pretty big area to get into, but they're trying to get that one right. Yeah. Whereas for the tour players, Ludwig Oberg playing the Ventus Black 6 TX is like a 69-gram shaft. He's trying to hit it have the trust that when it really, really matters, he can laser one down the 18th and stick a 7-wood on the green.
He's trying to hit 14 fairways. The guys in long drive just don't even have to hit one down the grid to be the longest guy in the world and win the championship. And also they're playing longer shafts as well.
And so it's still a golf swing, but it is a different action.
Different game.
So it is
different game.
Which is why you don't see many long drivers playing PGA Tour.
And the guys who have gone up in length always seem to come back down again. So, Phil had a bit of a play with it, Bryson had a bit of a play with it, but they've always come back towards more of a sort of what we call standard length of 45, 44, 45
you tend
and
to
a
see
half
45
inches.
and a half is the maximum, really. And a lot of them would normally have played 44 and a half to 45 inches. And this is the irony that from a retail point of view, they're asking an 18 handicapper to play a 46 inches. And I know it's a forgiving head, there's still a heck of a lot of club to get back to the ball.
Yeah, there was one of the Cleveland drivers that came in that had a 46-inch shaft, and when we did our testing on it, I mean, within the team, we struggled to square it up. So.
Well, it's like the old, what was it? There was the Long Tom.
Yes, the Long Tom Cobra.
Cobra.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, fast.
Good name.
Yeah.
Shall I keep on going on the questions, or are you going to have a swipe?
I will have a little hit. So GT1 is, so scale-wise, you've got all fingers and thumbs. GT3, which is the smallest, the most iron-like, and that really is designed to replace a long iron. It's lower launching mid-spin. Then you've got GT2, which is that little bit bigger, a little bit more wood-like, certainly more forgiving. Actually, GT3 has gone up 15% in terms of forgiveness, so that's gone up the most. And it's 10% with the GT2, and then 5% with the GT1, which is basically like a small fairway wood. It's like, as I remember, fairway woods being 30 years back. And so from a flight point of view, GT3 launches lower and is designed to retain some spin because it's for someone looking for a long iron replacement, hitting greens, retaining spin. GT2 is for more forgiveness, more distance, and GT1's actually designed to pop it up in the air. So I'll give each one a little hit just to kind of show differences. So this one's GT1. And these are all going to be at the 21-degree loft. I've lofted the GT1 20-degree up a little bit. You're very fairway wood-like in terms of setup. Slap that a little bit, but it's picked up at 16-odd degrees of launch. Now the TrackMan has been a little bit slow today, so we may not hit too many shots today because I think there's something going on in the background. So 15 degrees of launch, put that a little heavy.
Really gets up. Better strike.
Better contact. And we should see some spin on this one. So, 15 launch when it eventually. So there's been I think there's a little bit of software change going on in the background.
Yeah, there's the
4,500 revs of spin.
1,000 more spin on the spin.
So,
2 free.
The 2. The 2's certainly one for, forgiveness, but I've noticed it's lower spin this year. I think the Titleist guys, when we were talking to them about it, when they brought it round, they've absolutely gone more forgiveness, lighter crown, get the weight down to keep launch, but it's a pretty strong flight. Again,
we had the question about trends earlier on. That would be a trend, I think, across all hybrids. Is
trying to keep some spin on it. I mean, the Strixon head, I've noticed retains a bit of spin, and it always has done, but it's now got the interchangeable hosel. But hybrids are cannons.
I think that's potentially why 7-woods have started to come back into the equation.
I felt a little bit wobbly.
I just think because of the 7-woods, because of that deeper centre of gravity, comparatively you can keep the same sort of loft onto it. Just gives you a bit more of that. Yeah, and the tour players are playing them because, as you say, they're lower spin than they used to be. Now they may be playing or will be playing a slightly different structure of the head to keep spin down, but like playing into the last at Torrey Pines, Allberg being able to go right up there and it's landing soft. Yeah.
And the hybrids now, I'm amazed at how strong a lot of them are from a spin point of view.
Different acoustic from it, definitely.
Didn't strike that too well. Still launched pretty well. That was a bit heely. This is now going to spin loads because I hit it out of the neck.
Good retention of ball speed based on what you're saying about the strike.
And that's really this one from that was heely. This one from a ball speed retention, definitely good margin of error. That was a little bit more.
Sounded better.
So that was not right out of the neck. But you can see 3,500 revs of spin. Again. So that's 1,000 revs of spin less than the GT1.
Yeah.
but it's not dissimilar launch.
I think the big change that the Titleist guys were talking about was the ability to interchange the heel and toe weighting as well. Yeah. So they're really talking about being able to really adjust flight characteristics, fade, draw, which I've always struggled with turning over. Hybrids personally, I've always found them quite draw biased for me. So that was one of the reasons I took it out the bag and I put a long iron in and a fairway wood. But this actually starts to bring it potentially back into play.
Yeah, you can put the heavy weight in the toe. The GT1's front and back weight, so you can adjust the spin a little bit in the forgiveness. But yeah, both the 2 and the 3 have got heel and toe weights.
Yeah.
So
they said they could make it as fade or draw bias as anything they've ever had.
So then GT3, much more compact head. I think I can see us doing some of these with steel shafts in as a real iron replacement.
Nice strike.
Noticeably, little bit of a lower launch. So 13 launch, but the same spin as the GT2. So the flight windows are that little bit different. Yeah. But this is definitely going to suit someone who's more of an iron player.
I see you more as a free player.
Yeah, but I've always enjoyed long irons. So, and whilst I'm changing 4-iron to get more flight, I think getting the gapping right would be my concern with that. We'll see. You never know. Yeah. Never know. Could be persuaded.
Just the sizing and whatnot. Mark M was good to pop in earlier with Ali for the fitting. Good to see you again, Matt. Must apologise for the damage to the ceiling. There's only one you popped up. Thank goodness they are padded. I'll wear a crash helmet next time. Matt comes in as well. He's had some fittings with Mark. Spoke very complimentary of his fittings with Mark. So good to see you, Matt. David O. Hello, guys. Besides head weight, are there any issues with putting a 6-iron head on a 5-iron shaft length? Our bend loft a degree strong purposes building a combo set.
Ultimately, I mean, a 5-iron shaft is just, it's within a set. It's not really very different. It's a gram or 2 lighter, and the tip's a little bit longer for the fact that it's going in a 5-iron. But it's the head weight which creates the issues. Your swing weight is going to go up. Yeah. On a 5-iron shaft, length is going to go up 2.5, 3 points, and that could become pretty hard work. So for some players it might help, but for others it could make it really impossible to swing. So that's the biggest issue.
Yeah, I think there'd be a need to tidy your way around that potentially for you, sir. Yeah.
Because actually we do a lot of sets where we'll soft step shaft. So we'll put the 5-iron shaft and the 6-iron, the 6-iron, the 7. So there's nothing structurally, there's no issues with doing it. It's just what are the knock-on effects from a balance point of view.
Absolutely, the head weight, yeah. Alistair Cuthbertson. Hi, gents. Good to see PG's #1 fitter and Simon on the show.
I'll take that.
AQ, you will hurt your right wrist, back of the hand, if you hit mats too long, trust me.
Yeah.
Speaking of experience from sounds of it.
Yeah, where they stop and it jars.
Yeah, absolutely. Stephen Hendren, hi. What KBS iron shafts is similar to balance and weight of the NS Pro 950 Neo in a regular flex?
KBS
family.
Twilight. Yeah, in the regular. That's a 95 gram. That would be absolutely very, very comparable, and certainly one that would be a good contrast.
Yeah. Similar sort of balance as well. Here we go. AQ, could you test out Titleist 4 and 5 hybrids? I'm tempted to switch my irons for more distance. Well, I guess we kind of just did that.
Yeah, I was going to say which model. I mean, you can see from that.
Titleist 4 and 5 hybrids.
So, I mean, ultimately, the distance is going to be, like for me, if I went to a 5 hybrid, the launch and the spin are going to go through the roof, and potentially the height would go off. But actually, for a lot of players at kind of moderate speed or a lower launch, it then augments carry distance. So there wouldn't be an awful lot of relevance in me just hitting a couple. It's only really relevant to where your ball flight is and ball striking as to whether it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. But it's certainly something to explore and worth getting a comparison between the relevant hybrids and loft of iron to see where the benefit is.
I feel like if you're struggling for flight, then that GT1 hybrid might be worth a look. Certainly, that I've done a few in the gappings are slightly different in the GT1 to the GT2 and 3 in terms of lofting.
Yeah, they go 20, 23, 26.
So that 23 might be the one worth checking out potentially for you. I've done a few of those already. Neil McCluskey, hi guys, what shaft weight would you start with in a fit with a player with 84 miles an hour 6-iron with smooth tempo? There's a bit more to it than that.
we'd start with your current clubs to see what performance you get with them and to diagnose what the issues are. So depending on what you're using, it can affect how you've had to move to make that work, and that can affect a little bit on where the start point is. If it was complete carte blanche and you just walked in with no clubs, what we're saying, was it low 80s, was it?
Yeah, 84.
84 split. You'd probably start somewhere around the 100, 105 gram mark. I would. It's right in the middle, and you've got plenty of, unless you had a particular injury that you were trying to mitigate.
Yeah, depending on what you walk in the door with, you could drop the weight and then build it back up to where what you've come in with might be a way of doing it. I've done that before, just to see if actually lighter weight helps. It might throw things off, and then you build them back up to 120 or 128, whatever you want.
Or it might be you go down to 85
Or you might go
grams.
the other way, absolutely, and just build it back up. What's the lightest weight you can play that doesn't throw timing and your dispersion off?
I mean, ultimately, you're just using that as if someone hasn't got their clubs with them, then you'd put something together as a reference marker. So you've got a start point, and so you'd go pretty vanilla and in the middle.
Yeah.
And then based on that, you'd then decide, right, do we want to, help speed or timing? Do they need something to hit against? And then you'd work it out. So very much an A/B test from that point onwards.
Yeah. Simon Muggleton, I have a Motori Blue F3 shaft 5R shaft in my 5 wood, and I'm really enjoying the flight and the feel. Could you give a brief summary of what golfer and what shaft would suit? Curious if I am the stereotype.
The Motori F3.
Motori Blue F3 5R.
So the blue element, I can only imagine, was a stock option in something.
Yeah.
Probably in Mizuno.
Did you do Cobras as well?
They did in Cobra. They did the real thing in Cobra.
Yeah.
Which would have had yellows and things on it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, the F3, the F1 is more stiff tip and designed for a heavier loader.
Yeah.
The F3 was designed as a smoother profile, a little bit more moderate tip stiffness, so designed to be kind of mid-launch, mid-spin, but it was a little bit of a higher balance point. It was very neutral as a shaft, actually, which made it a good stock shaft.
Yeah.
But designed for a smoother tempo, I would say.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Depends what head that was in as well, I guess. G-Saw, good evening, guys. When should I upgrade from the beginner package set of clubs that I've been playing for 7 months and seem to be improving or not had any lessons yet? Hopefully soon. Love all your content.
Thank you very much. If you're improving well with them, then now probably isn't the right time. However, it's a how long's a piece of string thing, really, isn't it? I think what you don't want to do is to go too soon and make life harder than it needs to be, because if we were fitting you for clubs, we'd fit you, if you're kind of working hard in your game, we'd fit you kind of for beyond where you are now. Because you'd have to challenge you a bit to then give some longevity into it. But
I think the question I always ask is, how much time are you dedicating to your game? Where are you in terms of the journey? But it's true, I always ask, where are you in your journey? Because if you're somebody, if you're absolutely addicted, you're down there 2-3 times a week on the range, hitting a lot of balls, at the golf course twice at a weekend, then you might see some rapid improvement in your game, and you can. We did a YouTube video on this, and you can grow out of the box set pretty quickly.
You don't want to stall out in the improvements.
To a certain extent, yeah. So it's. I think if you go and see an experienced club fitter, they'll be able to answer that question for you based on when you come in, the speed that you bring to the table, the quality of strike, and it could be actually the box set's now holding you back. So go see an experienced fitter who knows what they're talking about.
I think, if you're getting really good results now, the chances are not quite yet. But equally speaking, it might be good to get a kind of a benchmark and go, right, where am I relative to these? And that at least will give you an idea of whether soon, like now/soon is the right time, or say, you know what, play out this year and then at the end of the season, then switch for next year. It could be either one of those,
Yeah, absolutely. Craig T, any counterbalance shafts heavier for the same swing as non-counterbalance? Sorry, are counterbalance shafts heavier for the same swing weight as non-counterbalance? Advantages, disadvantages of each?
So if you go a counterbalance shaft, you're doing it to drag weight, proportional weight away from the club head. So you're doing it to reduce swing weight. So I know Pingo heavy head and then stick a counterbalance in because it keeps the swing weight the same. And in theory, you're then increasing dead weight of the head to increase energy transfer, but it doesn't really work like that. You'd use the shafts for different purposes in people's swings.
Yeah, for timing elements of it, I know there was a period they came onto tour, wasn't there, where they were trying to get a few more guys into the counterbalanced shaft so they could load the head up for a bit more stability, but I think then potentially you're loading up total weight as well.
Yeah, yeah. You say inevitably you go, if you're going to counterbalance shaft, and you've got to weight the head up to get the swing weight the same, and so you're increasing total weight, but you're also bookending weight, which for some players is great. For me, it's the worst thing I can do, because then it gets very detached, and it's like a lead ball at the end of a piece of string, and I then end up dropping and flipping it and all over the show. So, yeah, it's not something. Swing weight and balance point of the shaft and the club are different things altogether. Swing weight's a static balance and has to be interpreted based on the components and how they're put together. And you're using the dead weight and the balance point of the shaft and the weight of the club head, so you could call that swing weight, I guess, to match the way the player moves. And you can't make up for one with the other.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
I hope that answers the question.
I'd say some of the 10K heads potentially need to counterbalance if they're very heavy.
Yeah, and this is the thing that, so actually one of the trends I'd say this year is that there's some brands are focusing on the 10K thing, and others are actually backing off of it, because so to get 10K, you have to load up the back weight of the head, which actually can throw off the performance in other aspects. So a couple of the brands are really trying to push the 10K conversation to the side and almost kind of gloss over it a little bit, Titleist in particular, because actually, and they never have gone there with stating the MOI numbers and things, because actually it's not just about that. Like for me, a back-weighted head, a 10K head, I in transition, it opens up and I fall right. So yeah, it's not the be-all and end-all. The heads now are that good that 9,300 MOI to 10,000 actually
very forgiving.
Is not that much difference.
Yeah. I don't think we'll see that marketed as much as years go by, I don't think.
And the head weights required to get it to 10K are quite heavy.
Yeah, exactly, Mark Rowley, Simon, what's the name of the independent graphite driver shaft that you saw at the PJ show? Said many senior tour players are using now. Thanks.
It's the Newton shafts. So we do have some samples en route. Should be arriving soon. We're going to do a bit of testing with them. That's the one that's got a longer bend profile, for want of a better phrase, rather than just a kick point. It's bent through the shaft. That's the principle of their design. And really interested to get them testing out and see how they feel and what kind of flight numbers they give. But,
was Colin putting one of those in play?
Colin brought one in last year, and there are a few of the senior guys. Ken Duke, he was on the stand in the States, and I'm trying to remember the names of the other players. I don't know whether Kenny Perry had used it, but yeah, Colin, there were a few guys who were testing them. And Colin got one and tested it.
Tapping into the technology.
And said actually it was interesting. So it's that bit different, which is quite nice, and we'll see what it does. It will give a different feel and performance.
Christian Hill, I'm not sure which part of the bag to get fitted for first. Is it best to start at the green and work backwards? Good question.
So, problem is you could say start in one bit, and actually if the bigger issue is somewhere else, you could. I mean, if it were me, I'd generally start in the irons, because that gives you your benchmark for the bottom half, and then to gap back to from the woods. So if you know where someone's longer end and the irons are getting them to, I think it's then strategically you can make better calls when working back from the driver as to what shots to give.
Yeah, I think they're the irons are the nucleus of the bag, I always think. So you want to attack that first if something feels off there, but off the tee as well, if driver, if you reluctant to maybe park driver and you feel like it's something that you could use, but it's not working for you, getting yourself in play is huge as well. So potentially drive, but I think it'd be assessing where you feel like you're losing your shots during the round of golf. But irons would definitely be, for me, the staple.
Yeah, I'd either go driver or irons, because say driver you're then strategizing back from, irons you're then setting, you then go driver and then work out what shots do you need in between. So either one of those, but if you're wanting to look at the whole bag, then certainly those would be the first two bits, and then you'd infill from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Norwegian Warhound. I think that's it.
They call him Warwound. Norwegian War Wound.
It's been a long day. How common is it for a driver shaft balance to be close to the iron shaft? I haven't lost anything with the irons, which are traditionally lofted, and driver seems to be lagging behind a little bit. Take care.
So with the first bit, just
yeah, how common is it for a driver shaft balance to be close that of the iron shaft?
So interesting enough, over the years, I've always found swing weight on the driver and a 6-iron, if the 6-iron's not long, if it's standard length, to be very close. A lot of the time, and it can't just be a coincidence. I'm sure a physics dean would tell me why from an energy point of view, but I've found swing weights on driver and 6-iron to be similar. But like, yeah, it depends on the player, ultimately. I play a much higher balance iron shaft, or much more tip balance driver shaft than I do irons, but then for some players would fit higher balance driver than irons.
Depends on the delivery patterns that the golfer brings in. You know, I think naturally more accomplished lower handicap golfers have more neutral deliveries typically. So whereas I've got some golfers and you know, high handicap guys, it can look completely different from the woods into the irons. I mean, the technique changes greatly. So naturally, the balance of shaft, the weight category is going to change with that as well. So I feel like the top guys, the tall guys, the balance would probably stay relatively
similar. I know in my instance, I get a little bit more, as the shaft gets longer into the driver, I get a little bit more of a handle pull and it drops in. So that's got less of a requirement over the years. But where my irons are completely neutralised and balanced, my technique's got less kind of lateral. Driver, I still need bottom end to hit against. And whether my action gets a bit more aggressive into driver as well, I need that bit more to hit against. But I've always been a rotation-based player. So, yeah. But then you get others who go counterbalance in the driver.
Yeah, so, it depends on the patterns that you're looking to do. Simon, new steel iron shafts come to the market every year, but the old favourites never go away, which is very true. That's true. What free shafts do you fit most often?
The Modus range. I'm going to put them in the Modus range because it's as in the 105 or 120, because I think they're kind of a upper mid weight, but a bit of balance in the tip end. I would say probably. I think the Tour Lights. I think KBS Tour Light.
Yeah,
we do quite a lot of.
Used to be the Tour 90.
Yeah.
Great shaft, I think.
What else would I think most often? I think as we're doing so many more lighter weights than we used to. I used to do an awful lot of the Nippon 950s. I don't do quite as many of those now.
Yeah.
If there's a shaft model I'd use most. We use quite a lot of them. So the steel fibers in like the 80 gram. I think that's a really, really good one.
I was going to say, I think that's what's interesting is actually I feel like there's more individuals now coming in where we're fitting them into more graphite as well. Just because the graphite ranges have extended and they've become better and the weight ranges have moved up and down. People are a bit more open to using graphite as well. So rather than sort of clambering around for a very lightweight steel, we do have some quality graphites we can now offer at sort of 85 grams, 90 grams, you know, which feel fantastic, you know. So they've sort of eaten into a bit of the steel market, I think, as well.
Yeah, I think that kind of crossover weight, sort of between 80 and 100 grams. But yeah, I think, as you say, more players are more open to playing just what works. I've certainly noticed that players come in rather than saying, I'd like to be fitted, but for this head. And it's heads more than shafts, really. But it's now a case of I like the idea of this, but tell me if it works. And actually, probably more people saying it'll be interesting to try this shaft. Let's just say Axiom for the sake of argument. But it's more. I've read about it. I like the sound of it, but I'm interested to hit it.
I bring it into the bay now, depending on where the club head speed is. I will bring a graphite composite shaft into the bay with me now when I pick my shafts off the rack, just as something to potentially throw in there for a hit. You'll know within 2 or 3 swings if it's for the individual or not, but it's always nice for them when they come down here with our extensive ranges for them to try it and see if it's for them. Louis Goucher, would you both agree the stock options in shafts, more notably driver shafts, have improved in quality when comparing against aftermarket? For example, the Tensei 1K range, great for consumers.
Yeah, I think the shaft manufacturers got stung. One in particular, Matrix, years back, by producing a really crap version of an aftermarket model and passing it off as you're putting a couple of different letters on it, and the finish and things is very similar. And so I think the shaft brands have all looked at that and gone, that's really not good. That's brand damaging. So they are using actually aftermarket models, a lot of them, but they're entry level ones, and actually using the stock options as almost like a proving ground to get a bit of marketing out there. So yeah, they are a lot more consistent than they used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I think the manufacturers are stocking more aftermarket versions as well. So that gives us the ability to work with those options, depending on the driver head or the wood head or whatever it might be with the individual. So there's more options for the consumer now, which is fantastic.
Yeah, the ranges are much better as well.
Absolutely.
Although what is interesting, I've seen the last couple of years where take the hazardous blacks, the Gen 4, Gen 5s, or like this year Denali Red. They've all got Denali Red. They've all most of them have got the Gen 5. It feels like there are a couple that they all go into.
Yeah.
But then I think it's TaylorMade have got a version of the Vanquish. But it will be a slightly repositioned one. So it's still the same profile, but not necessarily the top grade. So it's like the Ventus.
Yeah.
If it hasn't got Velocor on the tip, it's not really a Ventus.
No.
Because the Velocor is the engine.
Yeah, exactly, that tip section.
Always things to look out for.
Yeah. Mike T, can you compare Ping LS versus Callaway Elite Triple Diamond? I think he's asking for. So the LST versus Triple Diamond. I'm also going to have to plug this in because I think we're a little bit low on battery. That's all right. Grab that across. Where does that go into on this one? Bottom end.
See, he is a real person.
There we go. Thank you very much, sir. I like the way the camera's panned around to watch me there as well. So what would you expect here, Simon, with the LST versus Triple Diamond?
So LST, I would expect to launch lower, but potentially from what I've seen with it and my initial hits with it, I don't think it's that low spin.
No.
But I also think the Elite Triple Diamond they've gone safe from toe strike.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it's sort of part way towards the Triple Diamond Max. I think they've gone for something a little bit more. We've said that.
We think if anybody would have come in and tried the Triple Diamond Max last year, we feel like the Elite Triple Diamond this year has really sort of followed in that trend of a bit more stable, whereas the other LS lower spin models in the market, your QI 35 LS, Triple Diamonds of the past, the Adapt, absolutely, from the Cobra, very low spin. So if you're somebody who needs to flatten flight out there, the heads you'd be looking at on the rack.
Whereas I think the Elite pops it up a little bit more from what I've seen.
Yeah, I think this head, for the size of it and for the golfer that's aimed at, is crazy stable still.
Yeah, but I think, and I know that's what Ping do, but isn't the golfer who wants this, you're trying to get spin down, you've got really stable in the Max. I don't know, I just feel like, has it gone
too much away?
Again, have they gone a little bit safe?
Potentially, yeah, and I think that's where the GT3 has been a really good head. Good swing.
So a little bit higher on the face. Yeah, so I'm saying it's not that low spin. I've got it high on the face and got no spin in it whatsoever. That just shows, doesn't it? Never predict.
That was 1,464 on the spin there, ladies and gents.
Up the top of the face. But actually, the one thing with it is this head, you feel, on a few of the heads this year, you feel very little twist. As I think some of the shafts are helping the heads as well by being structurally so good, but you really notice very little distortion, I think, on the heads now, which can make them a bit hard to feel the contact point, I would say. Little bit less high on the face.
Speed.
That's
kicked up the spin
a
little bit.
That must have been a rotten strike. I think I've made sure I didn't sky it. Let me give it one more. I don't think that was a very pretty strike point. Blame it on lack of play. Everyone thinks we spend all day hitting shots, but we really don't.
Sadly not.
Not swinging it too well today.
I think for me, the golfer that I fitted into the LST has been somebody who wants a more classical sized head. So actually they're looking at the size and the shape of the head. They still want stability. Maybe there's somebody who requires lower spin, but on the flip side, they're not that consistent in terms of strike does move around the face. I think that's where the LST can be a great head for that individual.
Yeah, yeah. As you say, I think if your strike point's a little bit variable, then like it is. I didn't hit any of those particularly well, but it doesn't feel like it's.
Yeah.
I think some of the heads in the past, you really felt the head kick, and it's just not doing that now, which is actually very good.
Yeah, I mean, across the face performance of the Ping has been very good this year so far in terms of controlling the smash factor. This head, I would expect it to launch a little bit more, but potentially.
Yeah, you can definitely see a lot more loft on the face, and Callaway have always been that to me.
Yeah,
they've been higher launch but kept spin down in the low spin model. Yeah, so launch up a little bit more.
Fraction more launch. That's kind of what I'm seeing in the
that a little bit better.
Definitely.
But yeah, and that's what I expect. So for me, that's quite a kind of an up and over flight. So that's kind of where historically I've never really played the Callaways because I prefer to see the launch angle down a bit, being in the TSR.
And it's actually why I've just put a Callaway in my bag for that reason.
Yeah. So there's a lot of launch out of this. So if I get a little underneath it, that's just popped. You know, so a bit high in the face, but 16.5 launch. So that's where, if we're looking to get that launch angle up without the spin flaring, that's where this head really is very good. And say the LS, I might have had it swinging a little bit light there, I think, but LS keeps the launch down, but you don't catch it high out the face. It retains. I don't think they're wildly dissimilar on spin, but definitely launch angle, Callaway high, LST a little bit lower mid.
Yeah. Hope that was helpful, Mike.
Not the way I was swinging the Ping, sadly. But.
Got Craig T. What typical shaft weight progression do you see from driver to 3 forward to 7 wood to hybrid? My driver is 56 grams.
What's that? On average, there are some players who will play driver and fairways the same weight, but on average, if you're 55, 56 grams on the driver, mid 60s on the fairway, low to mid 70s on the hybrid, and would be that's broadly speaking where you'd expect to go.
Yeah, sometimes you'll flat line it between driver and the fairway woods if you're looking to help somebody pick it up from time to time. But most of the manufacturers will progress the weight to their shafts 55, 65, 70.
The reason is that the shaft's getting shorter. So actually, if the raw length of the shaft is 55 on the driver and 65 on the fairway, you're trimming more off. So you're actually making the fairway shaft more like 61, 62 grams. So it isn't as much of a differentiation on dead weight.
Yeah. ED, what type of turf/mat do you use in your sim bays? What would you recommend a person look for or stay away from when buying or hitting in mats for indoor home use? So
we use a Southwest green. It's I think it's called Pro-T. It certainly was called Pro-T. And this one's got, I don't know how visible this will be or not, but if I can pull the corner out, this one's got about an inch worth of pile and a very, very small, thin base to it. Avoid anything with the opposite. Avoid anything with a thick rubber base and then basically like a layer of felt on the top, because the reason we use this is it gives a little bit like turf. Now, there is no mat out there that provides exactly the same launch conditions as grass. But this one, I've not known anyone. I've known people who've come in a little bit scared about how it's going to feel, and they've hit shots and gone, my God, that's so nice.
Get that comment a lot,
So this, for us, I know that Titleist have certainly used it in their facilities at Woburn and things as well. It's great from that point of view. So yeah.
The left rough. What model iron is on Nick's radar for Simon? Changing out his 4-iron for more flight. Would a T100 fit the bill, or would a T150 or T200 flight it a bit higher for you?
So I don't. For me, the T200, it's a good head, but for me, I just didn't get the strike out of it. I didn't get the same consistency of ball speed as other heads. I think where the weight gets a little bit deeper, my strike point whether it gets a bit higher up the face, I'm not quite sure, but I didn't get the same kind of quality strike as I did on the T150. T150 was close. P770 is pretty 99% sure where I'm going to go on that.
For me, ZX7, ZXi7, T150 Titleist are going to be the ones I'm looking at. Some of the Mizuno options as well. I go for some, as forgiving as I can possibly get it, that still maintains the visuals I want down by the ball for me. Personally, is what I'm kind of looking for with the new iron set. But we'll see. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe I'll do a. Maybe you can fit me in, and we'll do a. We'll do one. So there we go. You can film
for me, 770, because I shallow out in the long irons and I pick it more. That's where the 770 really stands out. If somebody's a picker, that's where they're great.
I know when you hit that, you were surprised at.
Yeah, I was surprised at how much I got. I got an extra degree and a bit of the same loft degree and a bit launch over my current to PXG. Hit a lovely spin window. I think it went something like 15 foot higher. And land angle increased by a couple of degrees, 2-3 degrees. It was.
Tommy Fleetwood put 2 in this week.
4 and 5 are. Yeah. And equipment-wise, Oberg was in GT rounds 1 to 3.
Yes.
Finally got him to switch, and he went back to his TSR for the final round. That's confidence.
Creatures of comfort. David O, could you describe the Project X LZ shafts and why they feel so awful to me? Could you recommend something in the 105 range that is opposite? Used to play DG S300, but needs to go lighter.
Well, the LZ stands for loading zone. So the upper shaft, those ripples you see are to getting it narrowing it a bit quicker and getting that shaft giving you a bit of feedback, whereas the standard Project X is a plank in the middle. But the LZs get quite tip heavy. That's probably why you don't like it. The Dynamic Gold's pretty neutrally weighted. It's not tip heavy at all. So if you're looking for kind of 105 ground, you want something neutrally balanced. It's interesting. You might want to try the Modus 105. It's got a bit of weight in the tip end. Either that or
Dynamic Gold mid.
Well, the mids I think are quite tip heavy. Yeah. I find them they swing quite heavy.
Thinking more about the weight because he's losing a bit of weight there into the 100.
I'll tell you what might help. The nip on the 1050.
Yeah.
It's not too high balance. It's pretty mid. Actually, bend profile is quite similar to a Dynamic Gold. Actually.
Really nice.
Nip on 1050 if you can find it.
Yeah, that would have been one. The previous question about what we used to pick off the rack. That one used to come out a lot.
Yeah.
You know, absolutely. Paul D, if you had to pick just 2 irons to compare to each of the following, which would they be? So Ping I530, Ping I230. So comparable heads.
So what would you take one?
So I530. So you're looking at something which is definitely stronger in flight. So
they're strong.
So you're looking at probably the new Callaway Apex series, AI 200s. If you're trying to retain a little bit of the way it looks, P790.
Yeah, that new one. You've probably all seen images. What date are we today? No, the embargo is tomorrow. We've seen the pictures. That will be comparable for sure.
They're cannons. All 3 of those models.
ZX5 isn't a million miles off it actually, performance.
Yeah.
It's a bit more refined, but I230 I'd go T100.
Yeah.
Retains a bit of launch and spin. What would be a second one? Actually, an underrated one, King Tour Cobra.
Yeah, great head.
Soft feeling, retains a bit of launch and spin.
245 maybe. Hope that helped. Cat GPT, Simon, my goat.
That's very kind.
There you go.
I eat grass as well.
Tony,
I don't faint when I'm scared though.
Tony Tewson, hi lads, great show as usual. Suffer with pain in the fingers on the right hand when playing using KBS 90 steel shaft in my irons. What graphite shafts would be beneficial? Would graphite shafts be beneficial going forwards?
You know what? It might be worth trying a +4 grip first. If that stops you having to kind of hold it quite so tight, it takes a bit of the tapering out. That might make enough of a difference. Otherwise, in principle, graphite will take a bit of sting out. We've got a lot of questions. We have the quick fire. James is just giving us a hurry up.
There you go.
We'll crack through as many as possible. But
potentially.
Yeah.
Mr. Titleist, wonderful information. Thanks so much, guys. We need precision golf in Ireland.
To be sure.
AQ, loved that low flight on the last hybrid. Defo would try to go down to 5 iron.
Yeah, I'm more forgiving. So that's where they're geared at, the long irons for sure.
Paul Clanner, hey guys, have you got Takamo irons and woods on your radar? Price looks competitive.
We don't because they're direct to consumer. So currently it's not something that they would retail through us.
Richard Skinner, hi, can you make a recommendation for forged cavity back irons? Currently Gaming, the Gen 5, 3P and T combo and hit them really well. However, they are getting old. Any recommendations? Feel is key.
Well, the feel, the PXGs, because the infill are quite soft feeling, so they're still a good option. Swixon, ZX7, ZX5, ZXi5, ZXi7.
770s.
They're going to feel clickier. I think that's the problem, is the feel bit's the tough bit.
Yeah, because of the acoustic.
I would say the Swixons are probably the best bit.
ZX7.
Yeah,
good head this year. The ZXi7, I should say, really good head. Andrew Evans, nice to meet you at the show. Could you could a head change from Maverick to the standard Paradigm X alone account for the max height, including from 75 to 100 feet, or would I likely be doing something different swing-wise that day?
The Maverick was quite a strong flighted head. They were quite low spin, so it would account for a chunk of it for sure. Loft-wise, the absolute loft may have gone up a little bit. But yeah, certainly Paradigm X will spin a bit more and probably will launch a little higher. So most of it, a good chunk of it, is probably that.
Could be a bit strike dependent. Alistair Cuthbertson, good to see you, Alistair. Interesting to see Ludwig replacing his GT2 with his TSR2 in round 4. Thoughts on that?
Confidence. I think it's one where the improvement's going to be minuscule for him. There must have been some kind of gain. It takes him a long time to change. So to play it the first 3 rounds, be just about in contention and switch it, it's a comfort blanket thing.
Definitely.
You know, the TSR is a good head. I'm not going to change to GT from mine. I don't think there's enough of a game, but he's got a backup of confidence with that TSR.
Absolutely, to be sure.
Purely that, I think.
Lola Round, how would Zealous 8 regular fit, 75 miles an hour, 7-iron speed? Thinking ZXi5.
Certainly an option, yeah. I mean, it's the Zealous are really smooth at that weight, aren't they? They're really responsive shaft, give a little bit of flight. Might be worth looking at the 7 as well. Certainly something to consider.
Yeah, feel-wise, if you want to put something in that just gives you that bit of pop, they're lovely in that regard. I use them quite a lot. Quite a few in there.
We'll do 3 more. Otherwise,
we've got to save some for next week. I think.
Where are we in this one?
Been popular. Right at the top.
Yeah, we'll do 3 more because otherwise it's. Yeah. Thank you for all the questions.
We've got
a
couple of statements, so I'll move down to Golf Nerd 3. When a player increases grip weight significantly, i.e. mid-sized jumbo, ideally should be refit into a lighter shaft or to keep total weight constant familiar.
For me, avoid as much of a grip weight change as possible if what you've got has been working. If you're going to a mid-size, you can go up 10 grams, 15 grams. That's already 3 swing weight points. If you go into a jumbo, you can go up to, we've seen some at 80 grams, which is another 30 grams on top of a standard grip weight. So that will massively affect how you move the club.
Yeah. Total weight.
Total weight.
And then probably last one, I think, thoughts on things. Hi guys, you see Ventus shafts everywhere on tour, but less so in casual golf. Apart from the cost, why wouldn't you fit them for everyday people? Well, we do.
We do.
Yeah. We do. We get through a lot of Ventus. Absolutely. Yeah.
And some of it is the Velocore is very stable and it's all the way through the shaft. And so it's something that for some places it's a hard material. It's not the softest feeling shaft in the world. And actually for a lot of your average golfers, you might want a little bit more kick and a little more pop from the shaft. So that would be, for me, structure of the shaft could be one of the reasons.
Yeah, they do 3 very distinct profiles though, so absolutely, if somebody's not thrown into the equation, then it'd be worthwhile doing it. So,
pertinent to Alistair Cuthbertson, who's on, his son had a few choice words for some England rugby boys who are in today. So there will be a video coming with a few of the England rugby team who are in Wales this afternoon. So keep your eye out for that.
They hit it hard, don't they, those boys?
There's a bit of speed there, yeah. There's a bit of beef.
No holding back. Yeah.
If there's one quick way to feel insignificant, is stand next to a few of the pack. But like the questions are great. We're so sorry we can't get through all of them within the hour.
Maybe next week.
But if you can fire them in, the ones we haven't answered, please just email them over, or we'll try and make a list of them, or fire them in very first thing into the live next week, and we'll go on to them as quickly as we can. But thanks so much for all the interaction. Thank you for joining us.
Got there eventually.
It's always great to come huffing and puffing into the bay. Just too busy with fitting, so it's outrageous. But great to have you in. Really nice to have the to and fro of the fitting side of things. Hope you enjoyed that dynamic as well. Obviously, we miss Stuart greatly, and hope he's off sunning himself somewhere nice. What golf's come out this week? They're
European Tour's back again.
Kenyan Open. Yeah. and then Mexico and the US. So
yeah,
slightly
it's different fields.
Yeah, it's thawing out, mid-teens, I think, temperature coming this week in the UK. So get out and enjoy that. Have a great week. Thank you for joining us. Thanks for all the questions. If you've liked it, subscribe, tell your friends, get them to watch the lives. It's been great fun as always. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you again next week.
Hope to see you soon.